That's for sure. So could you tell us a little bit about Elie Wiesel and what made him so important? Were there elements of his wisdom that you tried to bring to life in the opera?
Well, to me, as I thought about this, well, first of all, I never even thought I would meet Elie Wiesel. I never thought I would meet him. But then one day I got a phone call from my editor saying that Elie Wiesel was going to be receiving the Tribune's Literary Award, and would I be interested in doing an interview with him? I thought, yeah, I think I could work that into my schedule. So I had a brief conversation with him on the phone just to kind of announce the story, to do an announcement story that he was going to be receiving a literary award. But I told myself before this conversation, I am not going to tell him about my family's past, because it's not about me, this is about him. So I call him up, Professor Wiesel, thank you for coming, you'll be coming to Chicago, why did you accept the award, so on and so forth. And the interview was over in about 10 minutes. But then he said to me, wait a second, what do you do at the Tribune? And I said, I'm a music critic. And he said, well then why are you doing this story? I said, wow, that was fast. Outed. So I told him about my family's past. And I told him about this book I wrote, Prisoner of Her Past, about what I've learned about my mother, my family's past. And he said, send me the book. So anyway, I go to New York, I interview him there, I interview him on the stage of Orchestra Hall. Orchestra Hall was packed, 2,500 people. You could not get a seat. People were calling me at the Tribune, what can I give you to get a seat, Chicago style? Nothing, I had 2 seats, one for me and one for my wife, that's it. And then we went back to the airport where he was going to be leaving. A private plane, of course, was awaiting him. We got to the airport, and I thought this has been the greatest 4 weeks of my life. I got to talk to him on the phone. I wrote a big story in the Tribune about it. I interviewed him on the stage of Orchestra Hall, and now I'm saying bye to him at the airport. And what an amazing 4 weeks. And as he hugged me goodbye, he hugged Pam, my wife, goodbye, and he said to me, as he was getting ready to get on the plane, he said, you've got my number, right? I said, you mean your phone number? He said, yeah, you've got my number, right? I said, yeah, and he walked off to the phone, to the plane. I'm thinking, what does he mean by that? Am I supposed to call him up and say, how's it going? I mean, I would never even presume. And so I tortured myself for the next week. Do I call him or don't I call him? Do I call him or don't I call him? And then I tortured myself for the next week. By then it was almost 2 weeks later, it was Friday. I was back in Orchestra Hall to review a concert. And I look on stage and I see in my mind's eye Professor Wiesel and myself, and that's when it hit me. This is a book. 2 generations, a survivor and a son of survivors discussing the after effects of this. So I thought, now I'm going to call him. So this was now 2 weeks and 1 Monday, 2 weeks and 1 day later. I don't know if he's even going to remember who I am. Presidents and prime ministers call him. So I call the office, various people come to the phone. Finally, they put him on the phone, and he doesn't even say hello to me. He says, I told many people about you. So I figure that means either I did a very good job or he thinks I'm someone else. And either way is fine. But anyway, I told him I had this idea, and so for this book, he said yes, and the conversation began. I found him to be, I would call him, if you can say such a thing, the poet of writing about the Holocaust. 2 things. To him, this wound of the Holocaust was as if it happened yesterday. It was a fresh wound. And he wrote about it in a way that he always found unsatisfactory. He said his words never got what he wanted to, but the rest of us turned to. And I'll just say one more thing about Elie Wiesel. I believe that he changed, more than anyone, the world's perception of Holocaust survivors. Because after World War II, Holocaust survivors were very looked down upon. Why didn't you resist, people said, as if you could, as if trying to live was in itself a form of resistance. He cast Holocaust survivors in the heroic light that they deserve with his constant book writing, with his traveling around the country, and we have Elie Wiesel to thank for that.